Today we're on Lockdown with Thought Leaders, and I'm speaking with Bryce. He is currently in the U.S. Army, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's going on today. Bryce, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the Army?
Sure. I'm currently an Army recruiter here in Sonora, California, and I chose or applied to be a recruiter to come back home, be close to family. I was originally born and raised in Southern California, near Malibu and the city of Thousand Oaks, and met my wife, who's from up here in the foothills of California. And just after a few years after high school, and then I decided to when our found out we decided to move back up near her family up in Calaveras County. And when the economy crashed in 2009, I needed a job and found out that the Army could secure me a job for the long haul. So I needed some good stabilization, and I'm proud to have served my country for the last 11 years, and I have 9 more to go.
Nice. So the cool thing about this for me is that this is the first time I'm speaking to someone on here. It's actually not from, but in my hometown, because that's where I'm from too, and the little small town vibe feels good sometimes. So yeah, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about some subjects that you might be more of an expert in than some of us. So
we'll see.
Let's see. So tell me a little bit about what it's like in the small town right now, as far as everything, us being on lockdown and everything. Is it
I actually just went to the opposite. To Sonora information for a future application. I thought but essential workers, so some people are still going to and from their place of business. I live near a gas station in the town of Copperopolis, and still people come and go through the gas station or the convenience store within the gas station. And I owed my kids some candy, so I actually asked the people that worked there why they weren't wearing masks or if they were afraid of getting sick. And they said, well, if they feel they need to, then they will. And there's been no known cases recently in our town, so they sanitize the store themselves. They feel extra sanitized to the point where hands are dry, they're breaking out. So they feel they're pretty well taken care of. But there's some places I just feel like I extra need to wash my hands and take care of myself, because I just have that sense of this place could be dirty.
Yeah, I mean, the more hands passing through, it's hard.
Yeah, but overall, I think we've had a not a bad situation up here in Calaveras County or this area. I've been able to go keep myself social distancing from family, but yet we'll meet with family and go take walks along the trails by the lake or up in the foothills here. So we were able to get out and get some exercise, but yet see people, but we're not hugging relatives or anything. So we're still keeping our distance and practicing good, good social distancing practices, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's good. I know that you told me that you have some experience working with people with things like PTSD, and I wanted to kind of correlate that with things that people may be going through today, because right now there's a lot of people who have a really hard time feeling like they're in isolation for all this time, especially people who may not have any family members in the home with them, or people who just, are so used to this routine of getting up and getting out of the house. Some people can go a little stir crazy, and it can have effects on our mental health. So I would like you to tell me a little bit about your experience working with people with PTSD and how that might help somebody.
Okay, so you kind of touched on multi-facets of various questions and topics. If I can try to cover all of them, I hope I can answer your topic. So I've experienced what you'd call almost a typical cabin fever, what most people are going through right now. I was assigned to a unit in Alaska for 3 years. So I just moved last year. I moved back from Alaska, and it was cold and dark about 6-7 months out of the year. So my
Mm.
wife kind of lately has been reverting back to similar symptoms she had in Alaska, where she just wants to take hot baths all the time, wants to sit inside, sometimes doesn't get motivated to do much, because in Alaska, when you're bummed out or you're inside too long, what are you going to go out and do when it's dark and cold and there's nowhere really to go?
Mm.
So if you're not snowboarding or snowshoeing, there's nothing to do in Fairbanks, Alaska during the day, so, or at night. So lately, if we don't get out and take walks as a family, or get out and do something, or at least take some sort of drive, or if it's raining all the time, then really not much to do. People can kind of revert back to that
Mhm.
isolation, and sometimes they get lonely, sometimes they get depressed, sometimes they get stir crazy, if you will. Not meaning to say that word, but I am myself in an outdoors, a social people person, so I do need to get out.
Me too.
So the little time I spent, the little time I spent going to the office today to get a document for somebody, it got me out of the monotony of being inside.
Yeah.
So I am working from home lately, which has been a huge change. But as far as your PTSD question, I've met several people with PTSD. I don't recall a certain situation since being in the military that caused me to get startled or spooked. But when a balloon pops or loud noises go off around me without me knowing, sometimes I can get really startled. Like I said, it
Mm.
wasn't a specific situation, but my kids like to pop balloons around me sometimes, and that I'm not sure. They just think it's funny, but I think I get quite startled, and a
Mm.
reaction from the startle is I won't say like aggression. It's just a quick, like a quick, like, fight or flight type thing, So so I think that can possibly happen. If people can get spooked, similar things can happen. I know people met a spouse of a PTSD victim. In this last January, I was speaking to, and she said her husband would go down for a nap and wake up and have no idea where he's at, or he could get like quick amnesia type thing, and then it was really scary. He said multiple uh, trips to the doctor to try to figure out and try to fix it. But it all depends. Everyone's different. People might have injuries and traumatic situations from convoys or deployments where IEDs or bombs went off or something happened. There was a situation I saw on a TV show the other night. It was a very valid situation where a girl got spooked because she was in a small enclosed situation, and so people can get that if some people have a claustrophobia around a lot of people. Maybe they were in an area when something went off or a situation occurred where there was a lot of people around them and they found nowhere to escape or nowhere to run or get out. So I learned in a class a few months ago that there's fight or flight. Right? We always knew there was a fight or flight type situation, but there's fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze for some people is a new one. So a lot of people can get that fight, flight, or freeze. And people will fight, or they'll strike with a physical force or aggression, or they'll take off running, or they just freeze up. And
Yeah.
so those, a lot of times with PTSD, that those three scenarios can occur. And so it's just like some people get spooked by fireworks because it can be similar to a gunshot or something. So I don't mind fireworks because I know I'm going to go see them. I know they're going to occur. I am aware of them, but if something's not brought to
Mm.
my attention, that can kind of get a little spooked sometimes.
So is being mentally prepared for the fact that something may trigger you a good way of like helping cope?
I think so. I think that's the same that can apply to depression, anxiety. There's lots of triggers. I get very angry sometimes, per se, if
Mm.
it's just a personal thing I'm battling with as being a parent over teenagers and whatnot. If I ask my kid 5 times to do something and they don't do it, and then I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm trying to battle that personally right now, is just have a lot more patience and think, okay, hand me your phone. You won't see your phone for a few days, you know? So I'm trying to do that instead of getting upset. But it's being aware of something that might trigger that and trying to react differently. So a lot of people can get, if they know, like to me, if I know something's a trigger, I'll try to avoid it or react differently with, I don't know, music, or sing something to yourself, or do something to get yourself out of a situation you might not be comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm pretty faith-based, and so it's helped me out a lot with various situations, especially with Army training or deployments. I'm able to go to church services that may be really small. We went to a place called NTC, which is in the desert of California, National Training Center. Most units rotate through there each year, and I was a supervisor of a group of people in my unit, and we had a we were kind of a high priority case where they needed our assistance and stuff daily, hour, like we were always in demand. And so I just got kind of burnt out, and so I was able to go to the small church service, you know, or little Bible study, if you will, every day, every other day or something. And so it was just, to me, it was a good way to cope and a good way to get your mind right, as my boss says currently. So once you get your mind right and you kind of get more level headed, then you can cope with things that may happen the next few hours, you know, the next day or two. So it's not everyone's faith-based, but it does give you a foundation to know how to counteract those triggers.
Yeah, that's really great.
For you.
So would you say that there are maybe like a top 2 or 3 items that someone who is struggling with the concept of, I'm gonna get out of here, this is not gonna last forever, someone who's struggling with, maybe they're feeling really lonely or depressed or anxiety right now, what are like the top couple items you would tell them to go through in their mind to kind of get out of it for this time that we're in?
So I would suggest, not, of course, they're just personal opinions, nothing, I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form, but I like to help people as much as I can, of course, but I would try to do something different each day. It breaks up monotony. So gyms, of course, are closed. So I try to get out with my kids. I've been running with my 2 boys, my my 12-year-old and my 6-year-old or 8-year-old. We get out. We've been running each morning. Today they flaked on me, so I ran by myself. So it's good out. I get out at least every other day to run, and then some days I try to do some sort of body weight conditioning. So whether it's in the garage, whether it's down the road in the neighborhood somewhere. And if you don't have an area that's safe to work out in your neighborhood, to go 5, 10, 15 minutes away somewhere that's a little safer. So I try to run in a golf course community, because those sidewalks, they have sidewalks, and that's more jogger, walker friendly compared to my neighborhood right here, which is not real safe on the road. So that, to me, get out and do something, get some fresh air. Make sure you like some good music, listen to that. You know, play games and watch a movie occasionally. Don't get somewhat stuck on the TV binging, because that's, to me, when I do that, I get depressed. So I had surgery a couple years ago on my ankle. Not that, you know, it's life threatening or anything, but when I was recuperating, I had this great plan before the surgery that life was going to be so easy. I was going to lose weight, do this and that. And then when I had the surgery, I just would sit there and watch TV all day, and it got pretty miserable. And it wasn't easy to start walking on my foot or ankle again. So I just really wasn't that happy. Like, of course, I came out of it okay, but at that time, it was super, super miserable.
It makes a lot of sense. And I've been talking to some people that we talk about, actually, sorry if you can hear those footsteps running around. But we've been talking about creating a schedule to actually make it make yourself more productive and stuff. But I
Hmm.
think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and then that balance between creating some kind of routine so you don't just get stuck on watching Netflix, but also breaking it up and getting out, seeing a different scenery can really just be that refreshing thing that you might need.
Yeah. So if you have that schedule, say, 8 to 9 is workout, and then 9 to 10 is eat breakfast. 10 to 11 is a little bit of whatever you do for work.
Mm-hmm.
11 to 12 is work as well, and then you got lunch with the family. Maybe you're gonna Zoom on the internet with some relatives, right? So on Sundays we Zoomed last 2 weeks ago with my wife's family because they're scattered through New Mexico, the foothills here in California, and the Bay Area. So we Zoomed
Yeah.
with them, and then last week we Zoomed with my family that's scattered through Washington State, Utah, and Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good. It feels like it's almost like that app Marco Polo, but it's live. You're seeing and talking to family that maybe hours away or hundreds of miles away. So, but each day you might have that set routine, but make it a little different. Like the routine can be the same, but make your things different. Different breakfast, different lunch, different workout each day. Don't make it so strict and so in the same thing, or it's going to get monotonous and be boring. So try to throw some creativity in there, so you're not starting to get you know
Monotonous and
I don't know what.
that makes sense.
Yeah, just you don't want to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I like that idea. I mean, we use Zoom a lot, but like if I call my family, my parents or whatever, it's usually just a phone call, but I could see doing Zoom. Actually, you're giving me the idea to bring in more parts of the family, maybe all at once or something. So that might be nice.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
we talked a little bit earlier about some other things. You know, a lot of people have, there's been some subjects floating around the internet about the police or the military coming in and just basically taking over, and that's something that people are really afraid of. And I wanted you to, because what was it that we were what branch was coming and helping people that we were talking
I
about?
think we were talking about National Guard helping
The National
several
Guard.
states.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for
So
some
I
people
enlisted
it
in
raises some
the Army.
fear.
Sorry, there was some lag time. So go. I didn't realize you're still
God, no
talking. Go ahead.
worries. We're going back and forth. No, for some people it raises some fear, but I wanted you to bring some light to what this actually means um and what they're doing.
Okay, so I enlisted to the National Guard and to the Army. So when I went through basic training, I enlisted into the active Army. So the National Guard, similar, wears the same uniform, right? But it's funded by the state, and it helps. Um, they do their 1 week in a month training, 2 weeks a year. So the reason the National Guard is great is if you want the same benefits, but you don't want to leave your local area, the National Guard is a great asset and it could be a great benefit thing to do in your life.
Mm-hmm.
However, they don't get a lot of chance to go out and train actively every day, such as the active Army does.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do get when there's a time of crisis or emergency is a lot of humanitarian aid and local um, active efforts, if you will, to help with the state. So, say California call for a state, what they call, I just blanked out now. When they call the president in a state of emergency type thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the federally we start helping the state of California, and when that happens, usually it's a big deal, big crisis, right? Well, sometimes too much for first responders to assist with, whether it's medically, local medics, or police. So they call for National Guard to assist. So if there's a flood, National Guard will grab sandbags and start filling and helping people out. So no matter what the situation may be, people do not need to get paranoid over National Guard assisting, because they're there to assist. They're not carrying around weapons. They're not carrying around a gas mask. They're not carrying around their whole body armor. They're not going to combat here in California. They're here to assist local aid with humanitarian efforts or local crisis such as COVID-19. So if you see National Guard or people in uniform, just say hi. They're here to help. They're not here to scare anybody. They're here to show assistance with whatever's going on.
Thank you for that. I know that people watch a lot of news these days, I think more than ever before. And, you know, you just hear one thing and then another, and then it spreads like wildfire on social media. And fear has been spread a lot. And obviously we have, you know, some things to be worried about as far as keeping ourselves healthy and that sort of thing. But hopefully we will not be living in fear, but more in more of like a state of purpose. So I really appreciate that from you.
Thank you.
So do you have any other tips for people to not be running around worried and you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do, because if you look at it, every pandemic, every worldwide health crisis that's happened in the past, and the Spanish flu was the last big one that wiped a lot of people out, or that brought the world to its knees. It passed by. There was a resolution, and it got through with it, and everybody moved on. Sure, it might hurt the economy a little bit. It might hurt people's morale. They might get deflated a bit. But if you look at that, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not preaching this, or I don't know any 100% surety or any answers here. I just have a feeling that we're going to get through this soon, and I know that we'll move on. My church had a semi-annual televised conference. Of course, nobody could be there live because of this, so
yeah,
and we all watched from our televisions. And our church leaders are sure that this will pass. You know, Good Friday before Easter, this next Friday, we're having a worldwide fast, in hopes that this will cease soon. And so I have a lot of faith that in the next couple of weeks things will look a lot better. And like I said, I'm no prophesier. I'm just saying, I think with faith and some prayers and hope that we can be upbeat, and we've just changed a little on how we do things the last few weeks, right? That's all that's happened, right? And a lot of change sometimes is hard for people, but I think with a little change and a little faith that this will all smooth out pretty soon. We'll get back to the mountains and the beaches and the playing and whatever we were doing before.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely shaken things up a little bit. So, I mean, there's probably going to be a new type of normal that comes out of this.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, for two reasons, you know, just if anyone wants to continue this conversation with you, how can they reach you? Maybe whether it's like social media or email. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
The best way to get in contact with me, I would say, is 916-549-0705. Or I have work Instagrams and work Facebook, personal Instagram, personal Facebook. Work-wise, you can get in charge with me, and in contact with me at Instagram at ssg_Maygren, Maygren. And Facebook, it's just Staff Sergeant Bryce Maygren, and you'll find that there. I'm probably the only Staff Sergeant Bryce Maygren on Facebook. And personal is just, I think it's just Bryce Maygren. On Instagram is Loving the Foothills, because I enjoy living up here in the foothills of California. So my buddy thinks it's kind of cheesy, but it's just Loving Foothills is my Instagram for
I love that.
Personal.
That's a good one. Nice. So do you foresee a big influx of people joining after the people are losing their jobs?
So that was my hope, right? So right now we're teleworking, so we're not going to the office, and we're doing most everything from social media or texting or our work phone. And I was hoping that people would have an influx of, oh, I lost my job due to this COVID-19. I need a new job. Maybe the Army can help. However, we're just kind of building our funnel of people, if you will, because they can't actually go to MEPS right now and enlist or process into the Army. So we're kind of waiting on that. We get them prepped and ready to go, and then we can send them MEPS as soon as it opens. But we've had a few people that are solidly interested, but I would have thought that more people would grasp on. They said, well, I can't even go to school. I can't even go out of my house. What makes you think I can join the Army right now? So it's been tough. I think a lot of people, they didn't want us to call some people and feel like we're just hounding on them to join the Army due to a crisis.
Right.
So we've been just reaching out on social media saying, hey, everything okay? How you been doing since the quarantine? You staying healthy? And then we'll just send out friendly Instagram posts. I'm trying to get in touch with the local high school to help pass out lunches to people. In the local church here in Copperopolis, they pass out meals occasionally. So I'm trying to work with them.
That's awesome. Well, I hope that does work out. And I am not trying to convince anyone one way or the other to join or not join, but if someone was on the fence thinking about, joining during this time, what would you say would be like a benefit or a help like in this period of time as far as joining?
So and once again, I'm not doing this just because I'm an Army recruiter, and I'm doing this out of personal experience where in 2009 when the economy crashed, right, I needed a job. And I didn't have my full bachelor's degree at the time. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on because the job economy crashed. So the Army was there to help me, give me better leadership, better direction, security for my family. And we went full in. Of course, every 4 or 5 years, I reconsider whether I'll stay in or not. But now I'm going to go for the full 20. And, here in the small town of Northern California, it was kind of a real deal breaker at the time because, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of jobs up here in the foothills. I would have had jobs in Sacramento or the Valley, and I was already working in the Valley at the time in Lodi, so I didn't want to drive and spend hundreds of dollars a month on gas if I wasn't having a solid job there. Right. And so the Army really saved me. People join for like 6 different reasons. People join due to tradition. They join because their grandpa was in, their dad was in, their sense of patriotism. They joined for financial security, and that's when I first joined. I needed financial security. Now, of course, I've stayed in for many reasons. I've stayed in due to a sense of patriotism. I love serving my country. I love doing what I'm doing. I love helping people. As a non-commissioned officer in the Army, I've been able to help several of those junior soldiers below me. I'm able to change people's lives by getting them a job and enlisting them in the Army as a recruiter. So I'm not, like I said, once again, I'm not trying to push this as a recruiter, but right now, job security is big with this pandemic. And the economy crashes or you have another pandemic or crisis, you will have a job in the Army or a job in whatever branch you decide to enlist in. But of course, I'm currently in the Army, so speaking for support of the Army, but you will have security. And like I said, even the National Guard, you could serve with them part time as well and still have benefits. But they're funded by the state, so nationally, federally funded, you will still get paid. I've never gone without a paycheck in 11 years, so I do really say I love the Army. It's had more more downs and ups, more pros than cons. And sometimes those things you think are miserable at the time, you look back and say, hey, that was an awesome memory. So it's my family, 6 of us driving my truck from DC to the middle of Alaska. That was quite the journey.
Oh, I bet. Wow.
Yeah, so we've had
it's a big
good experiences. That's worth it.
Well, that's a fun one. Do you want to go back to Alaska?
I actually lately have been really missing it for some reason, even though it's only 28, 30 degrees there. 28, 30 degrees in Fairbanks is pretty warm. It's like shorts and tank top.
Wow.
But I miss the Northern Lights. I miss some of the local mom and pop businesses and the tight community that was in the small town in Alaska. No matter where you drove in Alaska, the scenery, the road trip was amazing. I never got tired of driving there and things to look at, hiking, just the photography, the scenery. So I would love to go back one day and visit some friends that still live there, but it's not cheap, kid, to and from Alaska.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I really appreciate you speaking with me today and hopefully giving some people some ideas on how they can get through this and see the end of it and potentially even some work. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
All
Have
right,
a good one.
you too. Bye bye.